It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Tuesday. Gary, how are you?
I'm just sitting over here and I'm, stapling the stories. You see, I got the stapler right here.
You have the stapler?
There it is right there. And I'm just putting stories together and just you and I chuckling a little bit. If wasn't yesterday a microcosm of what we're going to be dealing with the next 4 years?
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, that's the one.
I mean, I think Sonny Hostin pretty much that was, and I know it's like I saw it and then I saw it again and I saw it again. And it's like, well, I guess we'll be playing that at least once on the show from The View. If you didn't hear it, you got to stay tuned. But that's kind of summed up what yesterday was. I don't care. All right. Okay. Now, look, if Trump is Hitler, then, of course, they're going to compare January 6th to slavery.
And the Holocaust.
Yeah, and the Holocaust. On the left, that's going. By the way, how many on the left we see them, anti-Semites, everywhere on the left. And she brought up the Holocaust. And I thought to myself, oh, really? I don't know that she's, I don't know. I can't remember all the audio cuts we play from The View. If she's ever expressed any anti-Semitic views, she might have. It was a long day. I don't know. But I thought to myself, what about the anti-Semites that are watching The View? Because, we don't watch it. We make Media Research Center watch it. Newsbusters. And thank you for all the hard work over there. But it's of course what they're going to do. They've got to go to the extreme, and they wonder why they lost. Well, maybe we lost because we underreported Biden's cognitive issues. Maybe we lost because we didn't recognize certain issues with blah, 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 blah.
And then Serpent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you hear what he said yesterday? Basically, the reason they lost is because they use NPR.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing here, but
yeah.
NPR type of language, and people don't understand it.
Yeah.
So Carville's analysis is the people of the United States are a bunch of idiots and don't really understand inflation, open borders, poor presidential leadership nationwide, insane energy policy. They don't understand it. They got confused. Democrats need to stop using NPR language because the peons out there don't have the ability to understand the complicated vocabulary of Democrats.
And who was it that said it? And yesterday we talked about it. Was that also Carville? Somebody else said something. You're too stupid. Basically, what they've been saying.
Carville said it. Yeah, he said it in a different way yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
2 days ago.
And we've been saying, look, they're saying over and over again, you're too stupid to see. We just have to phrase it in a different way. You're too stupid to see that Biden is fine. There's nothing wrong with him. The border's secure.
No. It was Schumer.
Yes.
It was. I'm sorry. It was. Carville was on the same narrative, but it was Schumer that said we need to stop talking about the minutia of the particular ideas because the people don't understand it.
It confuses them.
That basically you idiots out there can't figure out where Democrats are going. So I guess that would apply to Canada, too.
Yeah, of course.
The problem was you didn't understand Justin Trudeau. But you know what really got to me yesterday to show what the next 4 years is going to be like? It was the reaction, and this goes back to last week when Senator Fisher from Nebraska, was sworn back into office, and Kamala Harris went to shake hands with her older husband, who had his hand on a cane and he had one hand on the, holding the Bible with one cane on the other. Yeah. She went to shake his hand, and he couldn't shake her hand. Yeah. And the left went crazy over that. Absolutely ballistic, as if that was the end-all, be-all. Yeah. At that point, I went, it is going to be a fine next 4 years to cover as a radio talk show host.
Yeah, it is.
And then the ones that wouldn't give it up. It was once they jumped on the fact that the disrespect towards the vice, blah, 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 blah. It's like, he's leaning on a cane. He couldn't shake her hand. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. As if it was the most important thing ever to happen in American political history. The intensity of it. I mean, they're going to go bat soup crazy.
Yep.
Nothing is going to change, and they're trying to up it now. And again, January 6th, the Holocaust, slavery. I mean, it's just they don't know any other way. Look, when you promote let's put it this way. When you promote insane ideas and attempt to justify it over and over again, you may have a little bit of insanity in your brain.
Yeah, and over at CNN, they're going over it, all the footage from January 6th, 4 years ago. They're going over it. And then at the end, it culminates in, but nobody cares. But you just spent an hour on it.
Well, it isn't that people didn't care. It's that people analyze everything that they know. I don't think anybody was pleased with what happened January 6th on either side.
No.
But when you look at it and you say, okay, they claim it was an insurrection. That's false. It was a riot that came out that got out of control, and we have criticized the Democrats and the Capitol Police for not having complete transparency about the security of the Capitol on that day. We have insisted transparency, and they have fought it, all along the way. And, you had Merrick Garland come out yesterday in a statement and say basically a number of police officers lost their life on that day. That's a complete lie.
It's a lie.
It's a complete lie.
It's a lie.
And so it was not an insurrection. Nobody was charged with insurrection. Nobody was charged with the offense of killing police officers. And it's really interesting that the party that did everything that they possibly could to demonize and malign police officers since the Obama administration is claiming they care about police officers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just, but again, this is the stuff you expect. I don't think you are going to go, can you believe what they're doing? Well, they've been doing this now for a significant period of time. There's nothing new here.
I mean, if they did anything different, that would freak me out. That's when I'd go, whoa.
But when you look at it, and again, you can take it's the totality of everything that has happened over the last 8 years. The one thing that Democrats don't want to admit is the fact that the lawfare against Trump is what has put January 6th into the context, into its proper context of it was a riot that went out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And the lawfare against Trump which really, to me, changed this election. People looked at it and said, we're not a banana republic, and you're going after Trump, and you're making up crimes for Trump, and we're dealing right now with Mershon.
Yeah.
You're making up stuff. Remember, what Trump did was horrible. Well, if it was horrible, then why isn't Mershon going to give him, according to all reports, probation or jail time?
Right.
That he would have to serve
Right.
after. Why? If it was that serious of an offense, why aren't you going after him?
Right.
If it's 34 felonies,
My gosh.
and these are legitimate
you're not going to throw
felonies.
the book at him?
Yeah, exactly. Because they all know it's BS.
Well, just like when they call January 6th an insurrection.
It's a lie.
Hold on a second. One of your guys, Merrick Garland, has been leading the DOJ. Are you saying he didn't go after them? He didn't do his job?
Right? Yeah.
No, this is exactly what you get. Same thing with the bogus January 6th committee. They found two big things on Donald Trump. Diddly and squat. And none of them actionable. And it was, we got something. And I kept saying, we've said this about a number of things, almost everything that the left has thrown out there along the way, especially in regards to Donald Trump. Well, if January 6th was an insurrection, if the January 6th committee, they have something, they've got something now, If Alvin Bragg had 34 counts of something real,
they would have filed.
Then why aren't the Democrats who are these, Mershon, Bragg, politically, they're all safe. Why aren't they doing something about it?
Yeah.
The Democrats control the January 6th committee.
Or Garland. Because Bragg and Mershon, that's not their.
Right.
That's.
It's not. It's not.
State,
it's not January 6th. I'm talking about anything. I was saying anything thrown at Donald Trump. Anything. Why didn't they? Because there was nothing all along. Look at the Russian hoax. What was the Russian hoax? What was the culmination of the Russian hoax? You had the special prosecutor up there going, that's not my purview. No, that's actually your purview. That's what you were assigned to do. Well, I didn't. He bungled his report and testimony because there was nothing. And if you're a Democrat, you have to look at all these things. I think this is what happened with a number of them. They're like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. All of these things, and not one person has anything that sticks. And it's not because Donald Trump is getting away with it. It's because there's nothing there to begin with. All of them carried the torch to the top of the mountain to get the monster. And there was no monster. I'm telling you, it is The Village, the movie. It's about Donald Trump. There was nothing that was ever a threat.
The man you don't speak of.
That's right. The one who's partial to the color red. The monster who's not really a monster. And, of course, there was a wall. You can't deny it.
There was, well, there's sort of a fake wall.
Just like on our border right now.
it was an imaginary wall.
I'm telling you, M. Night Shyamalan is a visionary. I'm not wrong.
He's going, what the hell are they talking
about?
about?
Watch The Village if you haven't watched it in a while. If you've never seen it, watch it and think of the monster is Donald Trump. Right. All of the boxes are checked.
Right, and we really can't tell you about the monster.
Yeah, we can't. Nope. And neither can the left.
And then
they did call the monster Hitler a few times in the movie.
And then the of course the Democrats are the village leadership for doing things like I would just say the skinned animals.
Yeah, right. They'll make you believe something is there.
They're trying to make you think that Trump did something that they actually did.
That's the dossier they put together right there.
The skinned animals are the dossier.
Skinned animals is the dossier.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
oh.
And the kids are too stupid to grow up and think for themselves as adults. We'll lie to them and tell them that there are no modern conveniences, just like then President Obama told all the nations of Africa before he got on his plane and went home to the States. I'm not wrong about this. The Village is about the left and Donald Trump. Now I'm not going to be able to unsee it.
And of course, you're making a great point, because we all know that the happening is about global warming.
The trees are going to literally attack you.
Right.
Now, I'll say this, Mountain Cedar, okay, there's something to that. But
now I'm going to have to analyze signs.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, yeah, there's a lot going on there. But, think about it. What have we heard? We've heard from Carville and Schumer, and all along during the Biden administration, you're too stupid to know. And that's what they're telling the children, being the citizens of the U.S. They think you're too stupid to know the truth.
We got a great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Starting and charging system-related issues are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. So when your batteries talk, it's important you listen. Knowing the warning signs that could indicate your electrical system needs attention can help you avoid getting stuck out in the cold this winter. Have your electrical system checked by a certified technician if your vehicle begins to shut down electrical loads like radios and cab lights while in operation. This is a surefire sign that you're experiencing low battery voltage, and continuing to run in these conditions can lead to additional electrical systems shutting down.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio, and these are calling. I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Let's go to The View yesterday.
All right, fine.
And Sonny Hostin here. Here we go.
Had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget, because
here's the deal. If you wish to continue discussing January 6th, I'll do so, as long as you're willing to discuss the weaponization of the government by the Biden administration.
Right.
The Department of Justice targeting parents who are concerned about the unbelievable misogyny of school boards wanting men in girls' restrooms, and when men sexually assault women, they attempt to hide it, and the FBI sends FBI agents to watch those parents. I'll talk about that. If you want to talk about it all, let's talk about everything.
Sure.
I'll talk about the censoring. The government wishing to censor the government, and we will lay out all the lies of the Biden administration, and then, after all their lies, trying to censor the opposing view, much of it actually the truth. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about the Democrats enabling the riots of 2020 in this country. I'll talk about, starting with the Obama administration, the demonization of police officers, the lies about police officers. Let's talk about identity politics.
Let's talk about COVID, a global pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do the investigation there.
Right. I'm willing to bring January. If you're willing to talk about everything else, I'm willing to continue talking about January 6th.
Yep.
observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara, nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. You know, by the way, download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You know, when you look, again, the obsession of the media of January 6th, they're looking at it as a single incident.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're living the bubble of today. Only January 6th happened.
Right.
And when you look at over the last, and I'll go back further. I just found a Scott Jennings audio cut that I will play here that relates to it. I went back to Obama. He you know, and all the things that have happened since Obama has been president. He looked at it as the totality of Trump 2016 to now, and that the public looked at it and said, yeah, January 6th, bad. All right, Biden's president. Look at everything that they did, which we just laid out, which we would say to Sonny Hostin, yeah, sure, we'll talk about January 6th. Yep. Will you talk about all these other things that happened that are unprecedented, as far as I'm concerned, in American history, that has come from a horrible administration that, thank God, they're finally leaving office. But we'll discuss all of it. There isn't a topic you and I are ever afraid to discuss. Nope. But what they're failing to realize is the public looks at the totality of everything. Here's Scott Jennings talking about that yesterday on CNN.
Yeah, I think it'll be remembered, but I don't think it's going to be remembered singularly. I think it's going to be remembered in the context of the last 8 years, 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden. I mean, the fact is it happened. It was a terrible day. Political violence should never be condoned. And then we lived through 4 years of Biden's presidency, and the American people went scrambling back to Donald Trump. They chose to analyze two presidencies, which included one day and a whole bunch of other policy decisions, and they went back to Trump. The other thing about this day and about this election that I think is noteworthy and actually positive is this. It's not been since 1988 that Democrats have not challenged a Republican win on the floor of the House when trying to count the votes. I've never had an election in my adult professional career in which both sides basically accepted it without too much grumbling. Obviously, 00 and 04, Democrats didn't accept Bush. There were Republicans who didn't accept Obama. We know Democrats still think Russia stole the election in 2016. We know what happened in 2020. This time around, it seems to me that most people have basically accepted the results of the election. Also, the Electoral Reform Count Act passed in 2022, clarifying that the vice president only has ministerial duty, so that's going to go off without a hitch today. It feels like maybe we've gotten off the slippery slope of one side or the other not accepting the outcome of an election. So in its totality over the last quarter century, I tend to think that's a good thing.
And I think he hit it right there, as we did earlier, that, it's the public looked at the totality of everything, including January 6th, and said, let's go back to Trump. Yep. You know, that's what they looked at, because when you look at the weaponization of government, when you look at the censoring that they attempted and succeeded actually in doing, censoring voices. When you think about the fact of what happened to the New York Post,
oh my gosh,
back in October of 2020, that's almost unprecedented in American history. I don't know anything that compares to that whatsoever. The weaponization of government that we have seen under the Merrick Garland's tenure is just absolutely reprehensible. What we have seen come from government, the push to restrict free speech, which is basically the censoring, reprehensible. The insanity of the Democratic Party and identity politics, which finally the public is looking at and saying, you got a party who has mainstreamed racism. Yeah. And they call it identity politics, and they look at it, well, we're not racist. We're just looking at all the victims of the groups, and therefore there's victims, and therefore there's oppressors over here. When you look at the insanity and the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, all these things, it's a totality of what you've seen. And I'll go back to the Obama administration because, and we did earlier, because that's where the cop hating started. Right. Obama started the cop hating. Right. It was Obama who stuck stuck himself in the middle, being ignorant, not knowing what happened. It was the Louis Gates stuff. Right. Speaking of Louis Gates and
Henry Louis Gates, yeah.
and Henry Louis Gates and Sonny Hostin, isn't he the one that discovered that her family was involved in the slave trade?
Yes.
Since she wishes to compare January 6th to slavery.
Yeah, that was on his show. Yeah. Right.
I love that. And so that's what happened. I do want to play, because this is Scott Jennings basically reacting to what Sonny Hostin did, comparing January 6th to slavery, World War II, the Holocaust. Here we go.
In light of all the rhetoric and things we're going to hear people say today, is that ultimately it was the American people that got to decide ultimately how we feel collectively as a country about January the 6th. And already today, we have heard some people in other venues say extraordinarily unhinged and vile things, comparing January 6th to the Holocaust, to slavery, to World War II. I think we need to arrange our feelings and control ourselves accordingly here and not go off the deep end. It was.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing that I wanted to? There's one other thing here that they had talked. Oh, yeah, the Democrats out there talking about the fact, yesterday that Democrats don't deny election results.
Are you kidding me?
It was like.
Go back to early 2017.
It's like, are you really?
Yeah. And that's another thing. Just pretend like it never happened. We said years ago, they act as if the internet doesn't exist. Like you can't be fact-checked. This is why, by the way, they're so angry at people like Elon Musk when Elon Musk says, you are the media. Today, you are the media, which means you're capable of finding the facts yourself. You can find the truth. And they hate that. They don't like that. They don't like being fact-checked. But it doesn't stop them. That's the whole thing. You can sit there with the facts. You were mentioning yesterday on the show, John Cryer sitting down with Bill Maher, talking about the border. And he just flat out admitted, no, I didn't see all the videos of people coming across. Did you see that? No. I mean,
Yet he had an opinion.
It's like, why are you here?
Yeah, it's like, excuse me, what
you formed an opinion on pure ignorance.
And Bill Maher also hit him on, basically said he's crazy woke for refusing to judge Islam over its treatment of women.
Right.
It's like you're just ignoring it.
Right.
If that happened in the United States, you'd be going crazy. And here it's like, oh, no, whatever. I mean, they can. People have different ways of viewing things. And it's just like, what in the hell?
Right.
And it actually was perfect because I remember when John Cryer called himself a Republican?
Yeah, I remember that day.
When? How?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. No. Yeah. It is where the left is today, and they can't break themselves of it. Michael Rappaport did. So what's the difference? I'll tell you right now, if you go back 5 years, if we got in the Wayback Machine and we go back 5 years and we say, okay, one of the Democrats who turns around and opens his eyes is going to be Michael Rappaport. I would have thrown a $100 bill down and said, bet you're wrong. No, not going to happen ever.
Well,
but he didn't. By the way, he admitted that's on him for buying into the lies and everything else.
If you would have ever told me, and this would go back to the 80s for me, if you ever would have told me that Dershowitz would be where Dershowitz is now.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, right.
That Dershowitz would be agreeing with conservatives, but Dershowitz really hasn't changed that much. It's the Democrats that have changed.
I guess by comparison.
As an old school liberal.
Right, yeah.
For freedom.
Right.
I did see a cut.
Because I don't know anything like on the Constitution or law that he's changed his positions on at all.
I did see yesterday something from, it was basically a it was what do you call it? The things on Facebook that are just quick. What do they call those things?
GIFs?
No. They're like quick 10-second or 15 or 20-second or 30-second little things. I forgot.
Short?
Yeah, the shorts.
Yeah.
And it was Joe Rogan talking about basically how the left doesn't believe in freedom of speech. He goes, but the right used to not believe in freedom of speech because they went after Howard Stern. Like, no, that's not this guy.
No.
Like he was
No.
so far off on that one. That's basically the rules that apply to all of us. That wasn't targeting. That applies to us here, which is why
it wasn't calling for the government to shut down Howard Stern. That never happened.
Well,
he's if you're talking about actual free speech.
Well, no, what he's claiming is, they were, but because the FCC to fine him because he was on public radio, like we all are. There are limitations that we have, not in what we can discuss, but basically obscene words.
Right.
The whole George Carlin thing.
Right. Okay.
And so if you're on a podcast, we've actually said we're not going to play this. We probably could get away with it because it's after midnight, and the law allows after midnight to do certain things. We wish not to, in a way, just because we don't really talk that way. We like saying things like bat soup.
Right.
Or
right.
But that applies to all of it. That wasn't targeting of one person.
No, that's fine. That applies. There wasn't a law that was changed to target him specifically.
Right. Those are FCC rules that apply evenly, and it's got nothing to do with your politics.
Right.
It simply has to do with really sexual obscenity is what it has to do with.
Well, and remember back in the day, the Tipper Gore, remember, what's his name? Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, on Capitol Hill, and they were talking about the parental guidance stickers on albums and everything else, and it was like, all right.
That was Tipper Gore.
Yeah.
That was the Democrats.
Yeah. And so look, it was in the populist mode, and Dee Snider's a liberal. In the populist mode, they're coming after us. Big government's coming after, or in the case of Stern, he was trying to make it seem like, Rogan was trying to make it seem like, that the government was targeting him specifically. Well, if you're the big fish, by the way, he was in the big fish in terrestrial radio, and those rules apply, you can bet the FCC is going to come after you because you have the biggest audience. You're probably getting the brunt of the complaints of any host. There's probably only a handful of people that they talk like you.
Those were over long, decades-long indecency and obscenity laws that applied equally across the board.
I was going to say,
and Rogan was trying to make it sound like in the short that I saw that it was the right.
It was only the right
going after him.
Say, that happened for a while. So that was different administrations. That would have been different FCC commissioners on the left and right.
Oh,
have to go back
but the laws were the same.
Right. There were no laws created targeting him.
No.
Or rules created targeting him.
And to make that analogy that was the same as the censoring during COVID is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we're under those same laws.
Right. Bob
you and I.
Yeah,
exactly. But what a day it was. What a day it was.
Well,
yesterday.
And I think to myself, it's kind of sad, because their party's over. The guy that was, and I'm, not like their political party, but their little, celebration party is over because they thought they had won forever back in the Obama years. I don't know what they thought with Joe Biden. I really don't. I honestly don't. Man, fly on the wall stuff. Somebody write that book if you're on the left and in the Beltway. Write that book. I'll buy it.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Biden trying to shut down the possibility of Trump being able to drill anywhere. This is just, Trump said, we're going to undo that one day one.
Yeah.
We'll get to all of it. By the way, can Democrats ever figure out what they really want? Because I've seen it over the last couple of days. Well, the drilling is more in Biden than it ever was during Trump. See, he's pro-drilling. No, he's not.
Yeah. Right.
It's like they can't figure. Obama started this.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't know where the hell he stood.
Right.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Here's one of the problems that driving the media crazy. This is CNN. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
Harry Enton, going through the numbers of what the public thinks about January 6th. All right, listen to this. Here we go. All right.
This January 6th is your biggest memory of Trump's first term in office. By the time of 2024, look at this. Look at this. It was just 5%. Just 5% of Americans. And among Republicans, it was just 2%. So the bottom line is fewer Americans faulted Donald Trump or thought he was greatly responsible for the January 6th attack. And more than that, as it went into the rearview mirror, far fewer folks thought that it was their number one memory.
Yeah. And why is that?
Yeah. Why?
Because of the Biden administration. What the Biden administration did all the way through. And yesterday was the perfect example that, and we have said this from the day after the election, we don't believe the Democrats will change at all. Nope. We've always said that it's very, when you look at the core of the Democratic Party, what is the core of the Democratic Party? It's about spending, which is going to get you inflation. It's about identity politics, which is racism, which is judging people by groups and not individuals. And it's the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, and it's weak on foreign policy and enabling terrorists. That's where the Democratic Party is today. They can't talk about anything else. Look, the election is over. Trump won. January 6th is not the dominant thing that people are talking about. It's how the Biden administration helped to make their life a hell of a lot harder. And Democrats, I'll say liberals, whether they're in Canada or whether they're in the United States, whether they're in Australia, whether they're in Europe, just cannot figure out that you can't have a government whose role is to make their citizens' lives harder. They can't figure, it's like, why not? We're just trying to make their life harder because we care.
And the voters who keep voting for them. Look, they're not getting anything done, but vote or die. Remember that whole thing?
Yes, vote or die.
Seriously. We have celebrities. You're not going to be able to afford these concerts, so we're going to give you one for free.
I mean, it was yesterday was just, I'm shaking my head. I will say this. I was laughing again most of the day.
Yeah.
Because it's like they just don't get it.
Yeah.
They
the Sunny Hostin thing was, it was like, and the way that she presents herself on that show, everybody, this is about me. I mean, she's got the weirdest looking serious face. It's bizarre, sometimes very angry. But comparing January 6th to the Holocaust and slavery, they're not going to change. They're not going to do anything different. They're not going anywhere. They believe you're too stupid. Look, we've heard from two prominent people on the left over the last couple of days, Carville and Schumer. People are just too stupid. Look, we're listening to NPR. Those people are listening to Spotify. You
ready for this? All right, here we go. Democratic political consultant and advisor James Carville called on his party to tone down the jargon,
the jargon,
the jargonistic language with voters, calling it ineffective. Let's just be authentic and to the point, Carville said, told former White House press secretary turned MSNBC host Jen Psaki in an interview on Sunday night when asked about sophisticated political style language from Washington, D.C. They just don't get it, do they?
They don't.
So I think people like you and I can bring this home by example and don't use that idiotic NPR jargon when you're talking to voters. Carville released an op-ed piece for the New York Times last week saying that he was wrong about the 2024 election, recalling his old adage in 1992 that it's the economy stupid when advising then presidential candidate Bill Clinton that voters care more about the economy than any other issue. I was telling them, all educated smarter than I was, don't be too smart here, okay, Carville said, recalling conversations with fellow political strategists working for Clinton at the time. He said that people like him and Psaki could lead by example in the party and use language that regular people can understand.
Dumb it down for the masses.
The problem is, because this is what's going on, Kamala Harris was too complicated for you.
Oh, man, nobody will put that more brillianter than you just did.
Brillianter? Brillianteristic.
I don't listen to NPR. I mean,
that's what he's trying to sell.
Yes.
That's what he's trying to sell you. This is the idiocy. And you've got Democrats.
Gosh.
You got Democrats out there, and maybe we need to listen to James here, because he's bringing up. You're an idiot, Carville. You're a complete idiot. Because that's what he's trying to sell you. That Kamala Harris, people couldn't understand her. She was too complicated. She was such a deep thinker. Thinker.
She's a thinger.
What's a thinger?
I don't know.
She was such a deep thinker, and she needed to use more simple language with you. She couldn't even complete a sentence.
Look, he's just mad because the Democrats are now unburdened by has been and never was. Oh my gosh, she's too complicated. Kamala Harris that's brilliant. That's exactly, you have to, as we always do, you have to finish the sentence. You have to walk the entire analysis through of what he's actually saying.
Right.
And you hit it right there. She was too complicated for the masses.
Anybody buy that?
Wow. She's more brillianter than I am. Wow.
By the way, James Carville's been all over the place.
Yeah.
He's basically covered 360 degrees of opinions over the last couple of months, hasn't he?
Really, it's like rapid fire misfire Carville. You know what I mean? He just he's not throwing things to see what will stick. He doesn't care what sticks and what doesn't. He's just all over the place. You're too stupid. And Schumer said it. You're too stupid.
Yeah.
You're too stupid.
And it's like, guys, that's the same excuse you've used before.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, this is, when was it? When McAuliffe lost in Virginia that night, remember? Look, we need more extreme people on the left, candidates who can sell the agenda. You know, we can fold in John Kerry and Hillary Clinton here in recent months, who have each said the First Amendment gets in their way.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of goes along with what I was saying. They don't want you to be the media. They don't want you to do any fact checking. They don't want you looking up things. Children of the village, you shall not venture off and cross over the wall into the real world.
Remember, she wrote the book, It Takes a Village.
It Takes a
There's
Village.
A whole
I'm
tie-in
telling
there.
you, it's true. M. Night Shyamalan wrote that about the political, what would become the political situation in America, including the monster who's partial to red, Donald Trump, who's really not a monster, but we'll make it up.
Oh, wait a minute. You know something? I realized you're right.
Yeah, what?
When you said there was a wall, I said there was an imaginary wall, but then there was a real wall. I forgot about the real wall.
She climbed the wall.
Yeah, she climbed the wall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
I forgot. I was thinking the imaginary wall, you know, because remember there was an imaginary wall you weren't supposed to pass, but then after you went through the woods, there was the real wall.
Yeah, kind of a zone that you couldn't go past. Right. Likely because you could see, you know, the wall from there.
I still like the analogy we've come up with that, you know, basically it was, you know, those who you don't speak of,
right?
Which was the monsters, and it was like Trump is.
Well, that's the thing.
The one you don't speak of.
And think about it. They have to conspire because, I'm sorry, but William Hurt is Schumer. Right? He's Schumer. He's the dad leading all this. Not Biden.
William Hurt
He's Schumer. And, you know, we got to keep everything hidden. You know, we'll accuse the monster of doing things we're actually doing.
Deny.
We're killing the animals to make you believe that the monster is killing. It's all about Trump, people. The Village, go watch the movie. It's about Donald Trump. I'm not wrong about it. I've been saying it for a while now. It's true. You guys got to make this go viral, too.
Yes. And remember,
yeah,
Kamala was too complicated for you.
Exactly. We can't teach the kids. That's like, that's like learning a 10th language.
You want to know?
Do that.
You want to know how desperate they are? This also came out of yesterday. You ready for this?
Okay.
CNN's John King about Kamala Harris. Okay,
right,
here we go.
Okay. She leaves. What next for Kamala Harris? If you talk to people in this town, most Democrats say, "Oh, go away. If you want to run for California governor, fine. Please don't run for president again." I would remind you, and you made the point earlier, on this day 4 years ago, everyone said Donald Trump was done. So discount her as a potential nominee 4 years from now, or at least a player in that, at your peril. She just won 75 million votes. She just got 48.4% of the vote in the country. She just raised $1 billion. She's a black woman. Popular with the foundational base of the Democratic Party, which is black women. She has giant problems. She did not learn to speak to working class Americans about their cost of living and about their disaffection with this town. She's viewed by many as a quote unquote coastal elite. She has a lot of problems.
There you go. Don't count her out.
Yeah,
you think she'll ever be the presidential candidate again?
I don't think so. But then again, if not her, who? I don't know who.
Again, but
I don't know where the list is. But I don't think she will be.
But what they failed to talk about all the time, again, the failure of the Democrats. The Democrats and, like John King, nobody talks about the issues.
No. No.
It's that the issues don't matter. It's simply a personality. That Donald Trump is simply a personality that people like. We like the personality, and that's it. Now,
right.
There will always be political idolatry in American politics. Some people will look at some person and say, absolutely. We saw it with Obama. In some cases, you saw it with Trump. But Trump's real strength when he ran was based on the issues that you believed. He talked about the issues, and you believed he wasn't just saying he would do something about it. He's actually going to do something about it. And actually, that's part of his popularity right now is I think a lot of Republicans and conservatives and people that were wary of Trump see a seriousness now that they didn't see in 2016, that he knows he's got to get things done. I'll give you one example. Yesterday he came out and said, okay, I actually don't care whether it's one reconciliation bill or two.
Right, yeah.
And so we had talked about that yesterday where he had come out and said, I want one. He said, I don't care as long as it works. And I think he understands we need to have victories. You know, we need to have victories, and it just can't be executive orders. If we can get the united, Republican Party to pass, border, I can't think of it. What was the other stuff that they want to get?
Extend the tax cuts?
No. The tax cuts would be the second reconciliation bill.
All right.
But if we can get the border, and I forgot what else was in there, but for the first one. But if we can get the first reconciliation bill done, well, then there's a victory. Then we can work on the second one. I think probably he realizes, and his advisors have realized that. Look, it's going to be 6 months before we can do something. We can't just be hanging and say we've had no victories in Congress.
That's what I was saying yesterday. There has to, and we've said it before. There are people waiting. They're waiting. They think many people are looking for things to change drastically starting day one. And
I know. It would be the border stuff, money for securing the border, deportations, deregulation, energy, all those things you can get through right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I was looking at. And you can get those, and you need to have, those victories, unless, like I said, he knew something that we didn't know. But when he came out yesterday and said, I don't care whether it's one reconciliation bill or two, we just need to get stuff done.
Right.
I went, okay, he's serious.
Yeah.
Now, Canada is not going to become the 51st state, and somebody asked.
Then we're just going to have to take it.
Somebody asked a question yesterday, what subsidies are we? Because he said we need to stop the subsidies, and the question was asked, what subsidies? But the same question was asked to Justin, or not to Trudeau, but to Polyev when he came out and said that we need to stop selling our oil at discount prices to the United States. They're not selling at discount prices.
Yeah,
it's market price.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't know what agreement's in place at the moment, but yeah.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling. Harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Quickly, when I heard Poliev yesterday, there was a quote where he said we need to stop, selling oil at a discount. And I went, what discount?
Yeah.
Now, the oil is cheaper, especially when they didn't have the pipeline to the Pacific.
Right.
Because they were funneling all their oil down, and it was the thick crude, which needs to be refined, which our refineries are set up.
Right.
So the oil was cheaper than West Texas Intermediate.
Right.
But they weren't purposely selling it as a discount from what I know.
Yeah.
But I'll look into that.
Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. You saw Biden yesterday close down more areas where we can get fossil fuels, in the oceans, and I find it fascinating because if you go on social media, you'll see people trying. Well, Biden, there was more oil production than Trump had. Well, just like Obama, we remember Obama when Trump got into office, and because Obama could not stop, just like Biden, they can't stop production on private or state land.
Right.
They can only stop it on federal. And because of the efficiency and productivity of American oil producers, they are always able to produce more oil, even on the same land, as we all know, with the advances in technology. So if Biden, if that was his goal, to have more oil and natural gas production, he wouldn't be closing down areas as he has done over the last couple of weeks since he lost the election.
Right.
We all know that it's despite Democrats' efforts to shut it all down, they can't, but they're trying to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they want credit for the production. Democrats, why can't you make up your mind? Oh, same thing happened to Obama. Remember when Trump got in?
Yep.
And Trump was saying, look at all the oil we're producing. And Obama comes back. This is like a year into the Trump presidency. What do you mean? That was me. This started during me. This started during me.
Yeah.
Well, you tried to shut down everything. So are you saying you're responsible for global warming? We were amazed that the left never picked up on that.
Well, we tried to point it out to them. We said, hey, he's bragging about killing the earth.
Yes.
That was pre-Greta, by the way.
And this pre-Greta.
How dare you?
That was PG.
That was PG.
It's PG.
How dare you,
Mr.
Obama?
Which makes you think, again, we've always said, do Democrats actually have any beliefs besides winning?
Apparently, Barack Obama doesn't even believe in George Clooney anymore. So
now we know they do, but when nobody is upset by that, when Democrats claim one thing, and their politicians come out and say, "Oh no, here's what we're about," and there's no pushback, either they don't care or they realize that what they believe is so radical that they have to accept the lies of the people that they put in office in order to get elected. And you just saw that last time with Kamala Harris.
Right.
Where she flipped over and the major things that Trump believed, she claimed she believed until she had to back off because the left got too upset about it. You can mention it once, but you can't mention it every day.
Right.
If you mention it every day, then people might think that's actually your policy, instead of, no, I'm just lying to the public, and understand I'm lying to the public so they'll vote for me.
Right. Yep.
and then I won't do anything of what I've said I'm going to do.
Exactly.
And then the left is happy about it. And what you got out of yesterday in the last couple of weeks, really since Christmas, is that there's going to be no change in Democrats whatsoever. Democrats still wish to be racist. They wish to promote identity politics, where they judge people by groups and not individuals. Democrats have embraced the misogyny of the radical transgender movement.
Yep.
They're not going to change with that whatsoever. They have not at all said we need to stop spending.
Nope.
They're going to continue. They want to spend. They want to spend. They want to spend. They're still going to believe in their pro-terrorist narrative. They're still wish to be Jew haters. This is where the Democratic Party is. Every single Democrat knows right now listening that what I'm saying is the absolute truth. You know it. You've seen it. And you know they're not going to change. And you're okay with it because that's what you believe.
Tens of millions voted for more of it.
Yeah. Yep. You got there. No one. Think about this. Have you heard one Democrat upset that it was Biden that changed what Trump was doing, ensuring that Iran could not get their oil money
No.
and therefore support terrorism?
No.
Is there one Democrat? Have we got one Democrat call
No.
or email
Nope.
or tweet that has said, this is ridiculous? Why?
No.
Why is the United States enabling and actually financing the terrorism against the United States and Israel? One. Have you heard one voice?
Not
Fetterman? Maybe Fetterman? Maybe Fetterman. Fetterman.
I don't know if he brought that up specifically. That he is pro-Israel.
Yes.
So
yeah. Fetterman. Other than that, completely quiet. Anybody in the liberal media outraged by it? Nope. And so what we have now, and hopefully the Republicans know it, what you have is a party that wishes to remain absolutely the most radical party, the most radical major party in American political history since the Democrats supported slavery. Sonny, did you hear that?
it's, and they still get tens of millions of votes.
Yep. That's why the fight isn't over.
24
It's just beginning.
was not landslide by any stretch. Now, he won the popular vote. That's progress. But it's not. You're not turning the entire Titanic around. I don't look. On every level, this isn't over. And we brought up the DOJ, the weaponization of the DOJ and everything during the Trump years. That's not going to change. It was going on while he was president last time. And you're not going to unseat every activist in that regard in all those departments in 4 years. It's just not going to happen. So this is not over. The fight remains.
Here it is, Wall Street Journal. Biden issues a sweeping oil leasing ban. As he leaves town, he's doubling down on energy policies that Americans have rejected. Take that, American voters, and that and that. This seems to be President Biden's message in his final days in office as he ignores a November election verdict on his tenure and doubles down on the policies that voters rejected. The latest example is his sweeping order Monday to remove some 625 million acres of offshore waters from oil and gas leasing. Quote, as the climate crisis continues to threaten communities across the country and we are transitioning to a clean energy economy, now is the time to protect these coasts for our children and grandchildren, the president said. The royal, quote, we. The reality is that global oil demand is growing and the environmental protection and environmental protection is compatible with energy development. Mr. Biden is invoking the 1953 Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act to remove, in effect, the entire Atlantic coast, the eastern Gulf Coast of Mexico, the West Coast, and Alaska's northern Bering Sea from future leasing. The law says the president may, from time to time, withdraw from disposition any of the unleased lands of the Outer Continental Shelf. But Congress's goal was to promote more domestic oil and gas development while preserving a president's discretion over private leasing. Every president since George Herbert Walker Bush has used the law to set aside federal waters for conservation through their removals were far less expansive than Mr. Biden. They also included time limits. Before the 2020 election, Donald Trump removed waters off the South and Mid-Atlantic coast amid Republican politicians in the states, including Florida. Mr. Trump's order was intended to partly provide protection to Republicans in Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia who were taking political heat on those issues. And that concern was about tourism, as we all know.
Right.
It says it's legally questionable whether a president can bind his successors in this manner. When Mr. Trump rolled back Barack Obama's withdrawal from some 128 million acres in the Arctic and canyon areas of the Atlantic, climate groups sued. A liberal federal judge ruled the law didn't expressly let the president undo a predecessor's order. Of course it is. If it's an executive order, the next president can remove that executive order. That's ridiculous.
Right.
And I hope he does it. But groups should sue this president then. If you can't do one, you can't do the other.
Right.
Right?
Yep. Now, we've been here before with Trump.
But the thing is how this is where the Democrats lie. Because just last week you were seeing it. Last week you could see it on social media. See, Biden produced more oil and natural gas than Trump. Yeah, that's because they can't stop it. If they could stop it, they would stop it.
Right.
We all know it. Democrats can't make up their mind. Well, they have made up their mind where they stand. They know they can't win it. Biden didn't do this when he went into office. He's doing it now because there's no price to pay.
Right. I mean, he knows, Biden knows, or whoever's handling Biden knows that in a couple of weeks, things like this can be reversed.
Yeah.
You know, it's the slap. I'm going to make some noise and all right, fine.
Well, they're
Whatever.
hoping they can get the same judge or same judge who believes that one president can do an executive order and the next president can't rescind it, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Of course they can.
That's insane. Yeah.
That's what they're hoping. They're looking to damage the next presidency from what the American people have told the government through the election what they want. And the polling all shows Americans want both.
Right.
Americans want and understand we need oil and natural gas.
Yep.
And the Democrats are like, to hell with you. But then again, when you have a party, think about, because I always go back, to the identity politics, which is pure racism from the Democrats and the misogyny of the radical transgender movement. When they will not move on the fact that they believe that men should play women's sports, that men should be in women's bathrooms, that a man can be a woman if the man says so. If they will be that stubborn on an issue that is so insane, then anything else is easy for them.
Just because they say it's so, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Every level, any of them right now, on every single level. You think we were talking about Marchand, the judge. Bragg in presenting 34 counts of nothing. Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, the border secure. Why? I just said it.
Yeah. It's now we can see it with our own eyes.
That's not true. It's secure.
There's nothing wrong with Biden.
Border secure. Nothing wrong with Biden.
And again, Schumer doubled down on that a couple of days ago.
Right.
Oh, no. We weren't deceiving. Of course you were. The whole American public knows.
No, it's fine.
And that's the whole point. The Democratic Party is taking positions that everybody knows is pure bull soup.
Yep.
They don't care.
No,
they don't care.
They don't.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Justin Trudeau, well, not out yet, but will be out. Talk about how the Conservatives in Canada are saying, well, this move is simply because now they've basically suspended Parliament till at least March, and then the race begins for another vote for a new prime minister by October, which means another Liberal could replace. Technically could replace, Justin Trudeau, and Poilievre saying this is a stall technique in order to keep the, bring in another Liberal and pretend you're not as liberal as Justin Trudeau, yet you are. Right. We'll get to that coming up because same thing's going on, whether it's Europe. We brought this to you yesterday, whether it's Europe, the Western world right now is moving right. Why? Really because liberals believed that they could change economics. Yeah. You can manipulate an economy. You can't change economics, and they believe they could.
They think they can change reality on every front.
Yep. And
the reality that you're facing every day, they want you to believe it's something else.
You can't wish wealth.
No.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America.
And all of Canada.
You knew where I was going.
Listen, you guys know the truth. It's already the 51st. Let's just give it a couple of weeks. Come on. We love you.
Love the response from whether it was Trudeau or even Poilievre. We're not going to be the 51st state.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, look. Then just take California. And look.
Right.
New York. Come on, you share a border.
Right.
Take New York.
Right.
Take New York. You want Illinois?
You could have Illinois. We're going to have to move some friends out of those territories.
Look, we understand there's a concern about whether the Canadian Football League should expand. Now, they tried going into the United States a few years ago, and it didn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work.
But if California becomes a part of Canada, and New York becomes a part of Canada, well, then, you can have a Sacramento and a Syracuse CFL franchise.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
I was reading an article the other day about the Canadian Football League. Now, people don't know it. They've got a 110-yard field.
Right.
And they only have 3 downs. Now, when you watch Canadian football, it's really interesting because, like, the wide receivers, a lot more of them can be moving before the ball is snapped. So the wide receivers have a running start. I actually like that. They have a running start. They don't start, they're not standing still and go. They can be running back and then just take off, and so they're moving at the line of scrimmage.
All right.
And And
I like that.
I was reading an article. It was a Canadian article about the Canadian Football League, and the fact that the attendance at games is like the average attendance is like 22,000 people. Now the stadiums are smaller.
Wow.
But they were talking about, are there things we can do to change? And it's like the fans, especially the older fans, are adamant about keeping just 3 downs because you'll punt on 3rd down, which is really weird. Now, I grew up watching Canadian football.
And it's still 10 yards to get first down.
Yes, 10 yards to get a first down,
Okay.
yeah. But it's a 110-yard field.
Right.
So it's like.
Theirs goes to 11. Mine goes to 11.
The Spinal Tap Football League.
Exactly.
But it's a little weird. They're at the 40, the 50,
Yep.
the
Yep.
55, the 55? What are you talking about, the 55? What? Sammy Hagar song or what? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And the field, I believe, is wider also. It's wider. And the end zone, I think, is 20 yards deep. So
Okay. All right.
it's deeper. But,
How wide are the goalposts?
I don't know, but the goalposts are on the goal line. They're not
Oh.
like back at they're at the
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. I'm going to have to watch me some Canadian football.
I mean, I grew up as a fan of the Hamilton Tiger Cats,
Okay.
because I can still remember, we grew up as Bills fans, because we're there, but
Yeah.
Canadian football was always being shown.
Right.
And Hamilton's just a, couple of rocks skipping across
Yeah. Right.
Lake Ontario in a weird way.
Right. Well,
but we were just, when it has changed. We used to, I think now I still think you have to show a passport to get across. You used to just cross I remember crossing the bridge, the Peace Bridge, into Canada as a kid, as a teenager. And you had to stop at customs. You didn't need ID. We had no ID. We took our bicycles. You ride across the Peace Bridge. You walk in. 14, 15 years old.
Yep.
And it's like, going to head to my buddy's cottage at Crystal Beach. Right outside Fort Erie.
okay.
And so it was like, I remember in 92 parking in Buffalo, and it would have been what do they call it? Oh, the Friendship Festival.
Okay. Right.
And it was, I went with a friend of mine, and
Oh, that's the whole point.
What?
The Friendship Festival. You went with a friend
of mine.
yours.
Yeah. And we parked on the Buffalo side and walked across the Peace Bridge. It's the only time I've ever done that, walk across. And the Peace Bridge.
How long is it? Not that long?
I don't know. The Peace Bridge probably
Half a mile,
3/4 of a mile,
All
maybe,
right.
long.
All right.
Big span that goes over the Black Rock Canal, which is how if you want it, because the water, it's the mouth of the Lake Erie, which goes into the Niagara River, which then goes around Grand Island and Niagara Falls. It's like where the Peace Bridge is. It's really fast. The current probably is 15 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. Now, why did you walk it? Why did you park and walk it?
Probably because we just said parking may be a problem in Fort Erie over there. So we went over to the big Fort Erie Park over there. I remember the concert. It was, let me see. Who was it? It was
Anne Murray?
No. By the way, I love that song. I love that song.
Danny's song? From Anne Murray?
Snowbird.
Oh, Snowbird.
I love Snowbird.
I loved Anne Murray.
Absolutely love Snowbird. I mean, it's funny. People are like, you guys are heavy metal prog rockers. Doesn't matter. I love Snowbird. I love that.
Right.
I love that. No, it was a band called the Sky Diggers, which is more like Canadian country rock, which I love.
Right.
It was Blue Rodeo, extremely popular in Canada, and the Crash Test Dummies. Remember every one of them were fantastic. mean, just fantastic.
That's lazy songwriting.
Crash Test Dummies were fantastic live.
Yeah,
they were
I heard they were.
live.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, they had a lot of songs that were popular in Buffalo, like Superman.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Superman was really. But, but we walked right across.
Yeah.
So that would have been like 92.
Okay.
So we just walked right across. Just,
Yeah.
I don't think we showed ID or anything. Just, we decided to walk across the Peace Ridge, parked in Buffalo, going to the Friendship Festival. Oh, okay, fine, go.
All right.
I remember this has been in the 70s, and I was working at the bank as a bill collector, and afterwards, one of the people I worked with, their parents had a cottage it was in Crystal Beach.
Yeah.
So we go to the duty-free store and get a bottle of vodka.
Right.
And so we crossed it, and they said, anything real nice, very attractive young woman was customs over there.
Oh.
Anything you have to declare? Yeah, we got a bottle of vodka. Well, where are you going? We got a party at a cottage at Crystal Beach. Where? Well, Crystal Beach. No, the address. Gave her the address. Her and her friend showed up like 3 hours later.
There you go.
They showed up at the party. I mean, but that was the kind of thing. It's completely different now.
Right.
I remember the last time I crossed the other way, because this is when, it goes back about 12, 13 years, maybe 15 years ago. And you needed your passport. I was going from Dallas to Chicago to Buffalo. And the Chicago flight to Buffalo is over Detroit, turns around, goes back. Their de-icing went, and they needed it to land in Buffalo.
I remember this story, yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going. And it was like, okay, it was like the 22nd or something of December. Right. And they said, well, we can get you into Buffalo by the 28th. Well, I hadn't slept or anything. It's when I used to leave here and go straight there, go straight to the airport. Mm-hmm. And it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, there's no way I can rent a car. I'm not going to rent a car one way. Go to Buffalo and drive the 10, 12 hours. It's just, I'm going back to Dallas. I'm back to Buffalo all the time. No big deal. I'll come back in a couple of weeks. They said, you got a passport? Oh, why? Because there's a lot of seats to Canada, to Toronto. And then you can take a shuttle in. Go, well, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so American customs they were intense.
Wow.
It's completely different than the way it used to be. And that, of course, was 9/11, and
right,
we always show our passports, and
right. Now, do they go through your luggage, or
they didn't, but they asked. They said, we had to show our passports, and
right.
where are you headed? I had to see my parents, and so the guy walked past me. He was the guy customs on the bus.
Right.
He gets past me. He says, "To your parents, right, Gary?" He was behind me, and I turn and go, yeah. He wanted to see if that was my real name.
If you turned your head.
If I turned my head.
Reacted, responded. Yeah,
yep.
Right.
Yep. Now, the problem was it was all the same people that got on the plane, and this plane was almost completely empty going to Toronto. Right. Don't have any idea why, but it was. We all said they put us all in first class. So we might have had an adult beverage, and then we went to the bar. So everybody, and I was fine. I only had a couple, but there are some people that were feeling pretty good. And we got on, and the shuttle, and the bus driver said, "Now look, I know what the situation is here. I know you've had a good time. You don't mess around when you get to customs." It was so strange because it was never that way until 9/11 hit.
Right. Yeah.
We crossed. Remember, we used to go golfing all the time the Whirlpool golf course right at Niagara Falls, and then we golfed a couple times at this links course that opened up, I think, about 2000. Maybe it was the late 90s in Welland, Ontario.
Right,
where the canal goes from the Welland Canal, which goes from it bypasses Niagara River, so you go because Niagara Falls is there, and you can't have a ship go over Niagara Falls. But it goes from the Welland Canal for shipping to go from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. But making a short story extremely long, there, my brother and I were Hamilton Tiger Cat fans, right? And I never forget going to before it became before they built a new stadium. It became Tim Hortons Stadium. It was Ivor Wynne Stadium, and we begged our father. We were little kids. Please bring us by Ivor Wynne Stadium. We're like, wow, there's where the Canadian Football League plays.
Right.
You know? And
yeah.
we were just so.
Wow. I got to watch some Canadian football. I mean,
I don't know. They probably stream it. It was on ESPN or ESPN2, I
bet
think.
there's a couple of games
like the
on
Grey
YouTube,
Cup.
Here and there. I just kind of want to see, how the plays, pan out. I'm curious.
I grew up with it, so I actually like it.
Right.
I like how it's much more pass oriented.
Well, see, growing up in Del Rio, everything was about soccer. So. And I'm kind of not lying.
Now, remember, my dad's side, we come from the Halliburton Highlands, which is north of Toronto, just so people know.
All right.
My grandfather immigrated to the United States, I don't know, probably like 1905, 1906, and he left Canada because of the massive discrimination against Irish Catholics in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know about that till probably 10 years ago. My nephew told me because he was talking to my father. He goes, well, I never asked my father that. My grandfather never talked about it.
Wow.
When my nephew told me, I went to my dad. I said, well, before he died, never mentioned. He goes, he never talked about the past. I said, I get it. He's a move forward kind of guy like you, like my dad. I mean, they never look back on anything. It was like move forward, move forward.
Right.
What happened in the past, you can't do anything about. You move forward.
Right.
So he never, mentioned it. So hockey was big. There's a bunch of McNamaras in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Right. You like from
100
years ago?
From like 1916.
Yeah.
1970. Harold McNamara. I forgot the other one's names, but And it was not passed down. Their athletic ability was not passed down genetically to me.
Yeah.
No, so I've always felt a close tie to Canada. I mean, we would have reunions where we go visit our Canadian relatives and up there, and all that. Great people, very conservative people. And so you look at Canada and what has happened over the last 15 years. Extremely disappointing. In the 9 years with Trudeau, extremely disappointing. But we've seen similar things happen in the United States.
Well, it's it's kind of where things are right now, and we allowed it. In fact, millions of people voted for it to get this way. Think about that.
Same as
I think about growing up in Del Rio. We would go across to Acuna, like anybody, a relative came into town. Anybody came into town, you would take them across the International Bridge, and you would go and walk through Acuna. There's little shops, they make leather wallets and everything else. It's really cool. It was. And now it's not safe because of the rise of the cartels. I've got friends that still go back to Del Rio to visit family, but it's not safe. It's a very different, and of course we've seen what happens. All of the images from of course John Cryer didn't see it. All the images from the International Bridge and people coming across and everything else, the broken border. I mean, it's a very different Del Rio than I grew up in.
Yeah, and, now if I crossed to Canada, I'd be concerned about the free speech cartels, the anti-free speech cartels. That's no joke. We'll get to that coming up. 866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yeah, growing up, next to Canada, we're going to get into the Justin Trudeau stuff, but I just want to give a background about, me in Canada, growing up on the border. A couple of talk show hosts, huge influences on me from Canada. The Motts that used to be on in Toronto, Paul and Carol Motts, which always, again, I look at Paul and Carol Mott I don't know if they're even on the air anymore. They reminded me a lot of Don and Roma, from WLS.
Yeah, legendary.
When I worked there and they were there.
Yeah.
And also John Michael from St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, Ontario, just a legend up there. I've talked about him before.
Yeah.
He was a big influence on me for talk radio. The thing that impressed me the most, the one time where he was like, and he did the show alone and liked to take phone calls, and he wasn't getting any phone calls. And he said, well, I'm not getting any phone calls. Well, all right, let's play something. I'll never forget, he pulled out his harmonica, and he starts playing the harmonica on the air. I'm rolling down the road. I'm dying. I mean, it was the funniest thing I had ever heard at that point in
I love it.
in talk radio.
Just roll with it. I love it.
Yeah, so big influences. And then when I worked, I started doing talk radio in Niagara Falls, USA.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of Canadian listeners. When I worked at the station in Buffalo, 2 stations in Buffalo, a lot of Canadian listeners. I was a club DJ in Niagara Falls, USA.
Okay.
95% of the people that came in were from Canada. Every time I think of working at that club, I think of the most popular song I ever played, the Dead Milkmen, She'll Dance to Anything. And I always remember those lyrics. I met Andy Warhol at a real chic party. Blow it out your hairdo because you work at Hardee's. 80 pounds of makeup on your art school skin. 80 points of IQ located within.
I love that.
The Dead Milkmen from Philadelphia.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. But more on Canada next.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Just give me a little bit of background before we get into the whole Justin Trudeau thing, so people understand the relationship that I've had with Canada. I think it's important for people to understand. I mentioned that club that I had worked at that was 90%, in Niagara Falls, USA, Canadians. I mean, I worked Friday and Saturday night. It was 95% Canadians that would come in, and I mentioned every time I think of that club, the Dead Milkmen, I've got to She'll Dance to Anything, because it was a new wave club.
Right.
It was like the late 80s.
Yeah.
It was like 86, 87, 88, 89. And then I became a talk show host, and it's like I really can't be doing that. I was also doing weddings, but when I started thinking about when I mentioned some of the lyrics from the Dead Milkmen, because that was the most popular song there, and I kept thinking, you'll dance to anything by the Communards, you'll dance to anything by Book of Love, you'll dance to anything by the Smiths, you'll dance to anything by Depeche Commode. You'll dance to anything by any bunch of stupid Europeans who come over here with their big hairdos, intent on taking our money instead of giving your cash where it belongs to a decent American artist like myself.
That's
great
funny.
lyrics. I mean,
That's
great lyrics. I think the Punk Rock Girl was another hit they had. But, that I wanted to, when I was a kid, I wanted to live in Toronto. When we visited the Science Museum, I wanted to live there. I wanted to work when I really got into, music in the 70s and 80s, whatever. I wanted to work at CFNY. CFNY is where the song Spirit of Radio from Rush came from.
Right.
Spirit of Radio is about CFNY. I actually applied there once, thinking I may be able to get in. You're limited if you're an American citizen. I was hoping that because I was, because of, my dad's side, it didn't help at all. I found out their work rules extremely strict when it comes to people from other countries being allowed in their country. But again, just so you know, some of the disappointments that I had, and Boy Scout camp, going to Northern Lights every year, when I was a Boy Scout.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Lights up, again, I think north of the Halliburton Highlands. Just great memories.
In Boy Scouts on the southern border, we had these Southern Lights, and then they were mostly street lamps.
So you just understand, my relationship with Canada.
Yeah.
And I look at it, and I knew so many people that had a conservative mindset in Canada.
Mm.
The things that really disappointed me, not the socialism of big government spending, because we've seen that in the United States.
Yeah.
That's a natural thing.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, and it was never natural to me, but it seems like to be a natural thing. In politics, government can give you stuff, then you'll vote for them.
Right.
And when it really comes down to it, that's what it's about. I want to buy your vote.
Right.
I don't want to buy your vote with somebody else's money. I can't look at Canada and say, oh, you guys are exclusive to that, and be intellectually honest, because we've done the same stupid thing in the United States.
Sure.
It was really over the last 20 years how Canadians could ever allow, because you're not going to be able to do that in the United States. You're not going to be able to deny freedom of speech into the United States.
Right.
You're not. It's not going to happen. The two things that got to me over the last probably quarter of a century in Canada, the most disappointing was gun control and the intentional destruction. Now, they don't have a First Amendment like we do. It doesn't matter. They're part of the Western world. It was the destruction of freedom of speech. And like I said, gun control. Freedom of speech would be number one. Gun control would be number two. Yeah. I didn't think the Canadians would crumble that quickly and allow their governments to do so. So when you hear Pierre, Poilievre talk, it's great to hear that kind of message coming out of Canada. It really, really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are really the big disappointment. The one that just, to me, blows me away. I cannot believe the Canadians were so willing to give up or crumble to the fascism of people like Trudeau and others trying to get rid of free speech.
Yeah.
That bothered me more. I don't understand it. As close as I've had that relationship with Canada, I don't understand how that crumbled so quickly. Is it what we saw in 2020 here in the United States with the liberal intimidation that, by God, we're telling you this lie and you better believe this lie, that police departments are systemically racist to hunt down and kill blacks, and if you don't believe it, we'll destroy your company, we'll destroy you? Is it the same thing that we've seen in the radical transgender movement, where if you women, you must agree with our misogyny or we will destroy your life? Because that happened in the United States.
Yep.
Was it the same type of intimidation in Canada that made them lose? That got to the point where people can be jailed for not using the proper pronoun?
Regarding their own children, even.
Regarding their own children, yes. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, that's fascism.
Yeah.
That's a dictatorship. That's an authoritarian government. And then they would look over to the states and go, hey, you guys got Trump. You people are insane on your free speech issues.
Yeah. And I think, too, you go back a few years to the trucker protest.
Oh.
With the vaccines and everything else. And, you look at a group within an economy, because it applies to Canada just as it does the U.S., but they're the backbone. It's how you get everything. Eventually, it's going to be, if you bought it, a truck brought it. That's what we say here in the States. That applies to Canada, of course. But it became a war with the Liberal left, the Liberal Party in Canada, and Trudeau. It became they were willing to battle this out over and over again against people, by the way, that aren't getting rich by doing what they're doing. It's not a glamorous life. They only wanted to work.
I look at, and I know they're two different things, but I think there are some similarities. When you look at the trucker protest and civil disobedience, there was some civil disobedience, and the same thing with because it's been the talk of, maybe it's the last time they'll talk about it for a while, January 6th. And not talking about the people that committed violent acts, but the people that might have just been let through and everybody went through and said they were part of it.
Right.
Yet they didn't do anything. Yet the book was thrown at them, which you could say was an act of civil disobedience because they were trespassing.
Right.
Where we have had a belief in this country that if you commit an act of civil disobedience, you'll be punished, but they don't throw the book at you if it's part of a political protest. I don't mean committing assault. I don't mean attacking police officers. I don't mean any of that kind of thing. But just the fact that if you're out, protesting, and then you get involved, for example, in an act of civil disobedience. It's the same thing. I look at how they threw the book at those truckers, the debanking, the things like that.
Yeah.
I view that as abortion protesters where they tried to use the RICO law against them, where they tried to use the RICO law against abortion protesters who were committing acts of civil disobedience, which is what you use for the mob.
Right.
And they wanted to start using that for political protest and acts of political civil disobedience.
Right.
That's where, to me, where the line was crossed.
Right.
And then you saw how even Georgia, where they said, okay, let's take RICO and expand it. And RICO was only supposed to be, RICO exists to go after the mob. And you saw how in Georgia, Willis tried to use it. And now she's in more trouble than Trump will ever be.
Yeah.
But she tried to use it by calling the Republican Party or the Republican campaign of Trump basically a criminal enterprise, which it's not. A criminal enterprise is the mob, which only exists to commit illegal acts to get money.
Right.
And those are the things, those are probably some of the similarities. But when it comes to freedom of speech, that always blew my mind. So did, because I remember when gosh, how far does it go back? 30 years, 35 years, the gun confiscation, when that started happening. That blew me away because there are a couple things that won't happen in the United States I don't see for the next 100 years.
Right.
And that is the Second Amendment being gone and people giving up their free speech rights. I just don't see it.
Right.
Those are lines that can't be crossed in the United States. They could be crossed in Canada, and that's what was so disappointing for me with my relationship with Canada, seeing those things happen.
And to bring the two together, I mean, I guess the closest in recent years that we have seen it is to take your social media voice away, by basically embedding the FBI at Twitter, in Twitter at the time, sending them over to Facebook on the whole laptop thing, but not just the laptop, on anything. The New York Post will take that away. They will take a president off the platform completely. All of this is so mind-boggling and how scary it is when you think about how deep it ran. And like I said, it's not over. There is a culture. We've I don't know how long we've been saying it. It is not necessarily a conspiracy, and it doesn't require a conspiracy. We have a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. By the way, we've gotten to the point we cannot discount any conspiracy theory out there anymore. I just have to put it on the shelf with everything else. I don't know what is a conspiracy theory or not, but the point is when they all have the same mindset, that's more dangerous. They don't have to talk to each other.
It's a culture.
They all think the same, and it's a culture. It's a tone set by an administration, by a political party. The actions of these individuals carried out over and over and over again, and we've seen this. And so then, of course, they start speaking their own language. We found that out through the Twitter files. Some of the scariest stuff you'll see is thinking about the FBI basically setting up office there at Twitter at the time. And then about that time that the Twitter files were starting to fall out, Zuckerberg goes on Rogan and says, oh, yeah, they came to us on the laptop thing and said there was going to be some misinformation, in the summer of 2020.
And they knew it was the truth.
Exactly. They knew it was true. New York Post, think about that whole thing, and you mentioned it earlier, but it bears repeating. And then, of course, taking Trump off the platform altogether. They will stop at no end. They're not done. They're not going away.
And make the comparison, the criticism of Trudeau.
Yeah.
When the truckers had the Nazi insignia, but the Nazi insignia was targeting the government.
Right.
They weren't saying they were Nazis, and Trudeau came out.
They weren't celebrating Nazis.
Right. Trudeau came out and flipped that over and said the Canadian truckers were promoting, being Nazis. And that's the kind of stuff.
Man.
I mean, those are the kind of similarities that you saw from the government.
Same culture.
Yep.
Yep.
And I call that a culture of fascism, by the way.
It really is.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll get to the the announced resignation of the Canadian Prime Minister. Yeah. The one thing, because I've been gone for so long on the border, and I don't really, when I get up there, I don't get a chance really to pay attention to Canadian media anymore. I just wondered how the anti-free speech laws has affected talk radio. Do you find conservative talk show hosts on the radio in Canada?
How does it work with like YouTube and podcasting?
Yeah, it's a great point. I don't know. What's considered hate speech?
If they're Canadian citizens, does it apply? Because I know they're broadcasting globally if they're online, but how does it work? I don't know what the rules are.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and Canada. We are
and the 51st state. It's not going to be the 51st state. It's going to be the 50th when we do the California swap.
Look.
What?
All right, now let's just swap California for Alberta.
I'll take that.
All right. That's what we'll do.
We get to keep, let's see, Kern County, parts of Orange County, the American River, so I can go fishing, and parts of San Diego. Yeah.
And as I used to call it as a kid, Yosemite.
Yosemite. Right. We get to keep that big Yosemite.
Yes.
Hey, boo-boo. Yeah. That's even. I think that's even. But here's the thing. We actually only want to swap people. So basically, all the liberals in California would be sent to Alberta, and our friends from Alberta would come down and live in California. I'm making it too difficult.
Well, you make a great point.
Yeah,
it's people.
It's the people,
right? It's when you look at Canada right now, and when you look at the United States, you can say two things: the decline of both countries is not because of outside influences.
Right. Right.
It's what the people that you have voted for have done.
Yep. No, these
Same
are
thing.
all choices. And by the way, choices of tens of millions of people who keep voting for these things.
Yep. Canadian Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre condemned radical leftist Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's announcement on Monday that he would relinquish leadership of his country and the Liberal Party, dismissing it as a trick for the Liberals to stay in power and continue Trudeau's policies. Nothing has changed, Poilievre wrote in a message on social media. Every Liberal member of Parliament and leadership contender supported everything Trudeau did for 9 years. And now they want to trick voters by swapping in another Liberal face to keep ripping off Canadians for another 4 years, just like Justin. Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history might be relieved today that Justin Trudeau is finally leaving. But what has really changed, he asked in a video message, every Liberal MP in power today and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration. All passed Trudeau's housing policies that doubled the price of homes. He asserted that the Liberal Party members did not want Trudeau to step down because they feel guilty about their policies, but because he no longer is popular enough to win an election and keep them in power. Man, this sounds familiar, even though they're a parliamentary system and we're not.
Right.
They want to protect their pensions and paycheck by sweeping their hated leader under the rug months before an election to trick you and then do it all over again, the Conservative leader said. Trudeau said, I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide competitive process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that I am having to fight internal battles, and I cannot be the best option. And so...
By the way, Kamala Harris was overheard the other day asking the question, is this like Canadian football where if I'm not good enough down here, I can go up there and play? And the answer is no, she can't.
Trudeau told reporters he has asked the Canadian Governor General to essentially paralyze Parliament until March 24th, which means he will remain in power until then. So he has not resigned yet.
Right.
Canada is scheduled to have a general election for Parliament positions, which could determine a new prime minister on October 20th, but popular support is growing for the removal of Trudeau from office, potentially ending the Liberal majority before then. I mean, it's a landslide. If you looked at the numbers, I think it was 47% right now for Poilievre, and I think it's like 15 or 12% for a Liberal and or Trudeau. So I want to play this audio cut. This was Jordan Peterson talking to the Conservative leader yesterday. Here we go.
We won't have an election before very late winter, early spring. Then there's the possibility that the Trudeau resigns and then goes to the Governor General and says we need to shut down Parliament while the Liberal Party then chooses a new replacement. a Trudeau 2.0. And so there would be a leadership race. God knows how long that would drag on for during.
You think approximately in March, no earlier than March, as far as you can foresee.
Yeah, probably. And during which time we'd continue to flounder and twist in the wind. And by the way, the liberal media is all saying, well, surely you wouldn't want to trigger an election during the liberal leadership race. Excuse me, the Canadian people are not obliged, 41 million people are not obliged to wait around while this party sorts out its... Like, these guys could have got rid of Trudeau a year and a half ago. They knew he was a disaster then. And now they say, well, we're low in the polls, so we have to get rid of him. Now, you didn't care when he was just depriving single mothers of food for their kids or doubling housing costs or unleashing crime in neighborhoods across the country. But now you're really concerned about getting rid of him because your poll numbers are down and you want to keep your job. Sorry, that's not a good reason to paralyze the entire country, in the face, by the way, of a major negotiation with the incoming U.S. president, who enters with a massive and powerful mandate, and a man who has proven that he can spot weakness from a mile away. So the country should not be forced to wait for the Liberal Party to clean up its own mess. They've had plenty of time to do that. What we need now is certainty, and the only way that can come is through an election so the people can decide.
Boom. I mean, seriously.
yeah.
You were talking about how it was good to hear, conservative voice like Polyev. It's also, behind that, it's very encouraging to see the polls and how they're going right now. I mentioned yesterday, look, it's not just about Trudeau. Obviously, he's going to have to go, and everybody knew that. But it's about the liberal left. It's about their Liberal Party. And Barry Weiss, actually, at the Free Press, wrote an article, and she expanded on it, and, of course, is more articulate than I am on the thought. But she touched on that as well at the Free Press in an article she posted yesterday, that it's not just about Trudeau. When it came out and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna stand down, but give us a minute. Well, Polyev just pointed out right there, there's no obligation. Let the people decide. How long are you going to take with this? This is trying to get this leverage. Again, it's part of the reason we keep seeing this here in the States. It's part of the reason this kind of arrogance and this approach is part of the reason of your fall. You don't see it. You're not reading the room at all. The Canadian people clearly don't want you and your party ruling. And if there's any question, as he said, let's get straight to the election. Let's go to it.
One of the things and we brought this to you about 2 months ago, the research that was done to show that now every single state in the United States has a higher quality of life now.
Yeah.
Which means, your income versus your expenses. Every single state, even the poorer states than any province in Canada now.
Wow.
Polyev really is hitting the fact that the real GDP per capita, because remember, their carbon tax is hit.
Yeah.
We haven't allowed the Liberals to go that far here in the United States as they have in Canada. And you make a great point. It's not just Trudeau.
It's not just
he represents the liberal rot in Canada, just like Biden and or Harris represent the liberal rot in the United States.
Right.
But it's not just them. It's their party and the people that support their party. But Polyev, his latest thing that he posted on Twitter, the real GDP per capita growth in the G7. What's in last place? Canada.
Wow.
And the G7 is, people don't know, the United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, and Japan. It's reached this critical point.
There's a lot of work to, just like with the incoming administration here in the U.S., there's a lot of work to be done. By the way, Barry Weiss posting yesterday. Again, this is on the Free Press, but she posted on X. The problem with Trudeau's government is not the name at the top of the ticket. The problem is bad ideas strongly held. And then she linked the article that she wrote at the Free Press.
Do you think, now I'm just throwing this out, do you think that might be the same problem here in the United States?
Yes.
You think maybe it's what the Democratic Party believes?
Yeah.
And what they wish to institute as their legislation?
Yep. Look, it's the ideas. It's what they're promoting. It's what they're trying to do. He felt empowered to do these things because his party was on board for these things all along.
And I always call him I always call Trudeau the Obama of Canada. I mean, when he was elected 9 years ago, remember, it was the same thing. It's the same thing as Obama in 2008. Everybody's going crazy. We've got the youth. We've got this. And he's out there and he's smiling. It's the youth. Youth.
The new rock star.
Yeah. Youth and smile and slogans mean diddly and squat.
Exactly. How's your hope and change working for you?
Hey, Canada, you should have learned from us.
Exactly.
The hope and change didn't work here.
Right.
Obama wasn't the smartest guy in the room,
nope.
And neither is Trudeau.
And the arrogance in which the announcement was made and the process that we've been talking about here over the last few minutes, that's maddening. By the way, for the Liberal Party of Canada, that's doing more damage. They don't see it. They're not reading the room at all.
Look, you know how liberals infight constantly? If you're a conservative/populist conservative, there's no need for fighting either. The United States doesn't need to fight with Canada. Canada doesn't need to fight in the United States. In fact, I saw yesterday a story. Trump's advisors are talking about the fact you really need to focus in on having, on strengthening the ties of the North American Union, not having a European Union,
right?
And because we're not going to, we're not going to do the Amero. Remember that?
Right.
Remember the Amero? God, Remember how we had to deal with that? Oh,
yeah.
Jeez, was that like 2008, 2009, something like that?
Right. Yeah. Some people believe it became the Bitcoin, but that's just a rumor I started seconds ago on the program.
No, the Amero. Well, I don't know if including Mexico in the Amero. I don't know, but the Amero. I think it was the Fraser Institute that did it.
Yeah,
I think it was the Fraser Institute.
Somebody basically entertaining the question:
the European Union?
We tie?
Could we tie our currency together? Like they did in the Euro? And the answer was no. Right, and the Fraser Institute's a conservative Canadian think tank, and they said no. It wasn't, but they had come out with, again, when they talked about, they called it, they have, I was like, European Union, they have the ruble. I'm like, oh, no, it's not the ruble.
Well, they have, they have the British pound. They have the euro.
Right, it's a euro, but I was thinking ruble. Like, oh, no, the euro's worth more than the ruble.
Yeah.
But, so they said, well, could we have like a North American Union, like a European?
How would that work?
Like European Union. And how would it work if we shared a currency?
And someone did a rendering, an
illustration, right.
Illustration
of what it would look like.
What it would look like. Right.
And then the conspiracy theorists got on it big time. We're going to have the same currency. It was like, no, it was just a think tank.
Right.
Remember that? How many calls did we take on that?
Oh,
I had a call from a really good friend of mine going,
right,
what's going on? Are we going to share a currency with Mexico and Canada?
No.
What the hell are you talking about? No.
Not going to happen.
No, it was a think tank that
asked
the question. Yeah. And that, I believe, was before social media.
Right.
I think that thing blew up.
And here in the States, I vote if we put any queen on the dollar, it's going to be the rock band queen.
I thought it was going to be Taylor Swift.
She's not a queen.
Well,
She might be. I don't know.
I don't know.
None of my business.
You're not.
I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I'm not a Swiftie.
Well, you're not a Swiftie who is looking direction from a clueless, horrible pop singer.
Right. Exactly. And how does it happen? Someone might just walk up and go, boom, you're now a queen.
I had to say that so I get.
Nah.
I haven't got hate mail in a while.
Ah.
All right, 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And I'm sure we'll talk more about Canada because I'm assuming there's going to be negotiations between whoever becomes the new prime minister and Trump. And Poilievre's got a great point. We want the election now because he knows that the election is now. He'll be in,
right.
And then he negotiate with Trump. And the thing I like about him is he's not throwing cheap shots at Trump.
Right. Yeah.
You didn't hear cheap shots. He goes, "This is a guy that senses weakness."
Right.
And it's like, and we need to be strong in negotiations because there's a heck of a lot that we have to offer the United States and a heck of a lot they can offer us.
Right.
I see them as two people that can work together. Canada's not our enemy, and we're not Canada's enemy.
Right.
What was Michael Moore's movie again?
Canadian
Bacon was fiction.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it was
closer to the truth than any of his documentaries.
You're right.
As you've always said.
Yes.
So,
it was,
yeah. Yeah, but you're right. I guess we will be talking about this more as things develop.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I tell you one thing, and we mentioned this before, but I've seen, as I said, when I was on vacation, I watched a lot of YouTube and Canadian podcasters. And the biggest problem is there's a ton of problems Canada has, but you think things are expensive here? Oh, my gosh. Housing is unbelievable in Canada right now. That's the biggest complaint that everybody has. Rent, housing, just through the roof. Way more of a percentage of your income goes for housing in Canada than it does here in the United States.
Wow.
So, when it gets to things like that, and as James Carville, well, I guess it is the economy.
How did I forget that? I guess I have to admit it after the election. So fake. It's so stupid that and silly that we have to have these conversations that we can all see reality. I mean, we're seeing it right now in both the U.S. and Canada. the reality playing out politically, but the reality that the American people in Canada, I understand they're called Canadian people, have been dealing with through all of this, inflation, everything else, but also the culture war that the governments have imposed on the people of both countries. And people are done with it. They're done with it. We'll see where it goes in the election in Canada right now. The polls right now, again, as you mentioned, Gary, are not favoring the Liberal Party.
Well, reading here, Wall Street Journal, Canada needs a new election. When Justin Trudeau was elected Canadian Prime Minister in 2015, the country bet on a fresh face, promising a progressive agenda that would deliver prosperity and global leadership.
Hope and change.
His resignation on Monday, after more than 9 years, is an admission of that failure. His surrender came 2 days before his Liberal Party was set to hold a special caucus to discuss his future ahead of the scheduled October election, with polls indicating voter support for the ruling Liberals below 20%. Mr. Trudeau is jumping rather than wait to be pushed out by his own party. Mr. Trudeau's press conference Monday was his first since his deputy prime minister resigned in December. A majority of the Liberal caucus called for him to step aside. Mr. Trudeau stressed that while he's a fighter, the country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it's become clear to me that I'm having to fight internal battles. I cannot be the best option for that election. The decision leaves a leadership vacuum in Ottawa, but Mr. Trudeau doesn't seem to mind. Rather than call for an early election, he's opted to discontinue Parliament until March 24th without dissolving it. His goal is to give the Liberals more time to choose a less politically reviled candidate. Conservative leader Pierre
It's not the
Polyev
person.
and his Conservative Party currently have a big lead in the pre-election polls. Canadians have soured on the 53-year-old prime minister who has presided over a national decline. Canada's economy was once tied to America's success, but no more. The startling chart nearby shows the trend in GDP per capita for the U.S. and Canada from late 2014 through the third quarter of 2024. Canadians are now notably poorer than Americans. The Fraser Institute, a Vancouver think tank, we mentioned them before, says that from 2014 to 2022, Canada had the third lowest average annual GDP growth rate per capita in the 30-nation Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The third quarter of 2024, Fraser says, marks the sixth consecutive quarter that living standards have fallen in Canada. Blame Mr. Trudeau's tax and spend policies, especially his assault on oil and gas production in the resource-rich nation. This has hurt business investment and productivity gains. But the Liberals refused to adjust. In November, Ottawa produced draft regulations to cap emissions from oil and gas by 2030 at 35% below 2019 levels. Mr. Trudeau's woke agenda and his efforts to freeze the bank accounts of Canadians who resisted his COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns also have infuriated even moderate Canadians. Immigration has helped the economy avoid a worse decline, but the newcomer influx has led to housing shortages that the Liberals have not addressed. I think they're soft-selling it here on the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
You know, they're much more pro-immigration.
Right.
The Wall Street Journal is. But no, immigration, they have soured on like crazy because housing shortages, skyrocketing prices for housing in Canada.
Yeah.
Voters have turned against a progressive government from the West, and Canadians deserve an urgent chance to render their verdict. Look, you and I have talked about the fact of the Democrats right now here in the United States and trying to analyze what went wrong in the election. And we've gone over it probably every day since the election. We did it to start the show out in the first hour talking about James Carville. We talked yesterday about Schumer.
Yep.
And basically their analysis is we did everything right. Now, they haven't gone as far as Canada, even though they'd like to, but they've been limited by the opposition, but they'd like to go as far as Canada. We all know what happens when you do.
Yeah.
Because everybody has gone down the same path. Australia went down the same path. They're having horrible problems right now. Europe having horrible problems. Canada having horrible problems. The United States having horrible problems. And they all sit there and say, what is it? What could it possibly be? Oh, well, as James Carville and Schumer noted yesterday, it's because the American public is stupid and doesn't understand what they're trying to do.
We need to dumb it down. Yep. You know, there's similarities here in the election cycle here in the States.
Oh, I know.
And what's going on right now in Canada. Think about the way that the Democrats came in and said, all right, Biden, it's time. Nancy made the call. He's not capable of running. Oh, but he's still capable of being president. We'll just tap the brakes on that. Trudeau. Yeah, well, I'm gonna step down. Hey, give us a minute while our party gets everything together. The Canadian people deserve an election ASAP. This is not something where, well, look, it's because they want you to believe it's like the person, but he's not saying that. It's just like with Biden. Biden's not telling you why he stepped down. And Trudeau's like, well, look, we'll find a viable candidate soon. We'll get around to it. You know, we don't have to have the election until, we have to have it before October. We'll get to it one way or the other. They need to force this thing. I don't know where the momentum is, how much momentum there is in that direction, but there needs to be.
With the numbers right now of the Liberals in Canada, under 20%, I think I saw 15% was the last one I saw.
Yeah.
You've got to pound this every single day.
I don't.
Now,
you have to.
But the only problem is Canada has a worse problem than the United States with their media.
Oh, yeah.
Their media is even worse than ours.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the blessing is, as you know, the Internet now rules.
Right. Do they get the Internet in Canada? I've never been.
Let me ask Dudley.
Do they have devices? Do they have? They're not still on landlines?
Do they have devices?
Is that what you're saying?
They don't have devices, but they have vices, but only in Vancouver.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, their media is horrible. Oh, my
yeah,
gosh.
I can't imagine.
I used to have, when I worked in the Buffalo media, I used to go on one of the Canadian stations, and it was a liberal guy who always wanted me on.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, I remember telling him one time, I go, you actually think you're winning this argument, don't you? Because you've got liberal callers who are arguing with me. You know you're wrong on this.
Right.
You know you don't know you're completely. Oh, it's so much fun. I don't know if they would allow me to be on anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know because I don't know. I have not paid attention to what hate laws are.
Right.
If I say I disagree with you, I'm not sure if that's not a hate crime now if I disagree with a liberal.
Right.
In Canada.
Right.
But this is the thing where the similarities are that you've got Trudeau in Canada trying to delay it, trying to find somebody who is more image palatable to the Canadian public because they won't discuss the issues, while here in the United States, the Democrats are talking about the fact of why they lost the election is because the people of the United States are idiots and don't understand the great things that they're doing.
Right.
So they don't want to change at all when all of us know it's where you stand on the issues and trying to control the economy through a central government doesn't work.
Pretty simple. Look, it's Trudeau makes the announcement, non-announcement, yesterday for a reason. The pressure is there. But then they wanted to, but you guys need to calm down while our party gets their affairs in order. Are you kidding me? No.
Well, they're trying to find. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know. It'd be interesting to cover Canadian politics over the last 10 years every day like we do here, because one of the things we've said when we played earlier, when it was, who was it, from, I keep thinking Ed King. No, it's not the guitarist, Gary, from the late guitarist from Leonard Skinner.
No.
And Strawberry Alarm Clock. What's his name?
From CNN.
From CNN, yeah. He was when he was talking about the fact, don't count Kamala Harris out. And that's because they can't think of John King. Yeah, they can't think of anybody else.
Right.
You and I talked about this.
Yeah.
Who was there for the liberals? One of the biggest shocks for me when I said maybe the American public is waking up, and hopefully the Canadian public is waking up. But one of the things that we knew, we said that the American public must be waking up because we were shocked because imagery has dominated.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated liberalism.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're still doing all these awards. Well, okay, we suck. We can't win anything. We've got horrible people. Let's give ourselves an award.
Yay!
Yeah, Biden, give him a Medal of Freedom. That sounds good.
Right.
Give it to the Commie-saurus.
Exactly.
Yeah, Medal of Freedom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give one to Hillary.
Right.
We got other awards. All right. Give one to a Cheney. It's almost as if let's start giving out awards.
Not that Cheney, the other one.
Self-congratulatory awards, and this means we've done something. They're all about imagery, and substance doesn't mean anything to them, because when you break down what they believe, there is no substance to it because it doesn't work. But everything that we see here, no matter where you go, is because people believe, and liberals more than conservatives and Democrats, liberals more than conservatives, and Democrats more than Republicans, that they believe that they can manipulate, that they're smart enough that they can manipulate a multifaceted economy, that they can will it or wish it to success because they say so, and they take money from some people and give it to others, and they actually believe, with no evidence ever in the history of the world, that it works.
Yeah. It's beyond delusional.
I know. And they still believe it. They still can't back down.
Nope.
They can't sit there and say, no, we were wrong.
I mean, look at on everywhere you turn. Liberals are just in denial. I mean, Schumer keeps ringing in my head. No. Nothing's wrong with Biden. He said that just the other day. Wow. Seriously. No wonder he put cheese on a raw burger. He doesn't care. He's delusional.
You haven't had Ms. Welker. Call him on it.
Exactly.
Have you been not telling the truth?
Right.
She even knows it.
Right.
He's still can't admit it. Still got a BS.
Mm-hmm.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. Best response I got on X here. You ready for this one from Tammy?
Yeah.
If Pierre wins the prime ministership in Canada as a conservative, where will Americans fleeing Trump go?
Tammy, we love it. Great question.
That's a great question. Where do you go then?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.